Welcome back to the Broncast, a podcast all about the Ford Bronco. I'm your host, John Melton.
And I'm Donnie Whiteman.
We are two Bronco enthusiasts who own Broncos, work on Broncos, and love talking about Broncos from Generation 1 all the way through Generation 6. Our sponsor for this episode is Tom's Off-Road. Tom's Off-Road has every part you need to fully restore a Ford Bronco. On this episode, we did a little interview with Jason from Jason and Joni Build's YouTube channel, but that's just on iTunes or Spotify, but the rest of it's over here. Come on, let's watch. So what do you get when you spend $48,000 to buy a Bronco?
Oh, you still get problems.
That's right. You do.
You get a nice Bronco.
Hey, if this is your first time here, we'd love to have you subscribe. We're basically putting out the same content as our podcast, but you get to look at Donnie's skin.
And John's latest hairdo or facial configuration of hair.
So this is a 76 Ranger Bronco that a friend of a friend called and said, hey, will you help him make sure he's buying a good Bronco? So he went and looked and he sent me, I'd say before Supercell, during Supercell, and afterwards, probably 5 or 6 Broncos in the under $50,000 range.
Okay.
So he ended up buying this Bronco for $47,500, sight unseen, other than photographs.
Wow.
And so you never know what you're going to get.
Yeah.
And I think he got a pretty nice truck. So I wanted you to drive it and tell me what you think about it.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, right off the bat, you're looking at this and you're like, okay, yeah, this is, like, it still has some issues, but for under 50, so that's our gauge, right?
Yep.
Under 50. I think there's a lot of good with this, but I want to drive it.
EFI.
Line of the EFI.
No idea what that noise is. That's a new one on me. Oh, that's the EFI.
Yeah. And I will say, every vehicle, it has those issues, it has those things where, like, yeah, I mean, you put an EFI on an old truck and you're going to run into issues. All right, here we go. It shifts really nice. What transmission is it?
It's C4.
C4. It's really nice. It's got the 6.75 turning radius steering box, which I'm not used to. I feel like I'm like,
Yeah.
nice, easy suspension.
Well, it didn't make a ton of noise when we hit the speed bump.
It really didn't. I saw a sway bar up front. So what suspension is it?
I think it's a 3.5-inch kit. I'm not sure whose it is.
Okay.
Because we're on 33s and it's still pretty high.
It's nice though. I mean, has a good feel. The suspension, obviously I'm going to compare this to my Bronco, which is not a $50,000 Bronco. But the suspension is not as soft as mine, but it wasn't bad. Good power.
Yep.
Feels good.
You feel the sway bar on that corner?
I definitely feel the sway bar.
We didn't roll.
Not at all. It's a nice drive. I mean, it's not noisy.
That's the EFI. What's funny is, so he got it and he drove it for 36 hours, 3 days straight.
Whoa.
He drove it until it was time to go to bed.
Really?
And then the drive shaft fell out.
Oh.
So he's already had one repair. And, I looked underneath the truck and, it's all new bolts everywhere. Everything's been done underneath. But they just didn't tighten up the last cross at the differential yoke. So he lost a needle cap bearing. And so I just replaced his cross, put his drive shaft back in it, and he's back on the road.
Now, obviously, we apologize because our sound quality is not, podcast standard here. But we're driving a Bronco with an open top, so it might be hard to hear us. But Interesting choice with this dash cluster type of thing, but a good way to put in a radio into the Bronco. And I love the Tuffy console. But I mean, those are things that anyone can add. Like really how it drives, how it stops, how it steers. Like those are important things when you're buying a Bronco. And this one feels great. Like steering is tight. There is no slop in the steering. It's not wandering all over the road. When you hit the brakes, it's not darting one way or the other. The brakes are just different than mine, so it's a little like the pedal goes down really far before it actually starts catching, but it catches and it stops fine. And then we're having some trouble with the EFI. Not sure what's going on with that, but it probably just needs a quick tune. Probably not a catastrophic engine failure by any means.
Well, it hasn't stalled on us, and it's a pretty hot day out.
Yeah.
But engine temp, I mean, I'm assuming all the gauges work. My door latch quit working, so I had to climb in through the back to sit over here.
Yeah.
But that's typical. You buy a truck and, day 2, the door doesn't open.
Oh, totally. I've had mine for how many years and my door doesn't open. So a couple things that I noticed just walking around the truck. There's like a dent on the hood where it looks like the hood kind of got pinched a little bit, or I don't know what, maybe slammed a little bit too hard. Saw some rust, a couple of spots. You've looked around this truck.
Yeah, well, I was under it doing the drive shaft. So
how bad is it?
I looked at the whole underside of the truck. Typical, it's got patch pans.
Yeah.
For under 50 grand, you're not going to get a new body.
Right.
And you're certainly not going to get a brand new floor replacement. The hardest part about doing drop-in pans or anything on a Bronco like this is the toe board area. You just can't cut up high enough on the firewall to do a good job without completely disassembling the truck.
Yeah.
So I feel like this is, it's been a respray. So it looks like it was originally copper brown metallic, and now it's a real pretty steel graphite gray.
Yep. It's definitely been sprayed. It looks good. The paint looks good. It, doesn't look like it was a poor quality job. But I don't think, like what you said, I don't think this was full body. Definitely has got some patch panels, has got some areas that could have used a little bit of repair, but probably didn't. And probably just got covered up with a new paint job. That is what you get for under $50,000 on a Bronco.
Yeah, and underneath the truck, the engine was clean, the oil pan was clean, the transmission was clean, so it's clearly been out of the truck and put back in. But yeah, you can hear the EFI surging.
I know.
That's something he'll need to fix. But, for 50 grand, that's what you're going to get. But it's got these new electric seats.
Yeah.
It's got a $1,200 steering column and steering wheel. Like I said, it's got a stereo. It's got a best top. Did he get a good deal? What do you think?
I think so. Well, I wouldn't say he got a deal. I would say this is what I would expect, which is crazy. And I know a lot of you are sitting here listening to this going, are you kidding me? He paid $50,000 for that. That's the market that we're in. And that is where things are just kind of where they are this day, for the Bronco market is, yes, this is a $50,000 truck, and yes, 10, 15 years ago it was a $15,000 truck. That's where we're at, and it was a nice $15,000 truck. I think it's unfair in some regard, but also it's I've seen $50,000 trucks that weren't as nice as this one, and people did not get a good deal. We've talked about it before. You still have to do stuff to a $50,000 truck. You still have to kind of expect to spend money working on a $50,000 truck, even though you just paid $50,000. There's still stuff you got to do, and so that's kind of how it is. But the bones of this truck are great. To find one with good bones, to find one that is, the stuff that needs to be fixed on here, it's relatively easy to fix. You got a door panel, you got a couple dings and dents, but that just makes it so that you're not worried about driving it.
Right.
You're not worried about, oh my gosh, like if I park it somewhere, someone's gonna dig it. You've already got a couple dings and dents. You're in the clear, and you can just enjoy this truck. And this is what I would want if I was buying something like this.
Well, and when you spend $100,000, you gotta. Where are you gonna park it?
Yeah.
Are you worried? Can you take it on the club trail ride? Probably not.
No. Yeah.
But this guy is. I told him. I said, "Have you put it in 4-wheel drive yet?" And he's like, "No." And I go, "Well, you need to do it." And he goes, "Well, I'm a little worried about doing that." And he goes, "No, just do it."
Yeah.
I go, "It's either gonna work or not work. We'll figure it out."
Yep.
So.
Yep.
Ironically, when he was sending me images and ads for different trucks, and they were all in the $30,000 to $50,000 range, and the ones that were $28,000 and $30,000 were too good to be true.
Yeah.
Like the floor pans were beautiful, and everything was done. It was painted, and I told him, I said, "Well, tell him you're gonna fly out and you want to drive it." And he goes, "Oh yeah." They said the truck's not actually in this state; it's in another state.
Yeah.
So. They're scams, and that's the issue. Is you got to worry about getting scams. But when he bought this truck, he had to wire the guy the money before he would put it on the trailer. And he said, "But I looked at the pictures, and he had pictures that were 2-3 years old with his other cars in the background." So he said, "I wasn't really worried about this guy scamming because he gave me everything I asked for, and there was never an excuse.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm selling it for someone else, or." It takes a week to get back with the pictures.
Yeah.
He finally just said, "I had to wire the guy the money, pull the trigger." So he's pretty happy with it, and just wanted to know, did I get a good deal? And they go, "Well, we'll drive it and we'll let you know."
Yeah. I think he paid what this would be. I mean,
Yeah.
This is a solid under $50,000 truck.
Well, I know another guy that spent $48,000 and he had to have it repainted, and it has a lot more rust.
Well,
that has not been fixed. So
Yeah.
he just spent another $15,000 on his $50,000 truck. So I feel like these two trucks are about even now.
yeah.
Actually, this one's still probably nicer, and
Yeah.
he's 20 grand under it. So
Yeah. Well, there you go. Thank you guys for watching. Quick little Bronco drive for you to figure out, is this truck worth $50,000? I say yes. What do you say?
yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
Because there's not a lot I have to fix on it.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that's the reality today. And again, I know you guys are like, that's crazy. I can't believe, that you guys are even saying that, but it's the truth, man. I mean, that's where we're at. So there you go.
you can spend 30 and then just have to spend another 20, and it might still need a paint job. So
Right,
this
right.
truck looks good.
Yeah.
And it's a driver. He's been driving it. He's driving it again. We got to drive it. So until something else breaks.
Yep, exactly. Well, there you go. Thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you for Jason and Joni Builds being on the podcast as well. And there we go. Jason and Joni. Did I say that?
Yeah. Jason, Joni, Bill.
Yeah. Well, thank you for Jason being on the podcast.
Yeah.
If you didn't check that out, make sure to go listen to it. I know we're not putting it on YouTube, but you can go listen to it everywhere you find your podcast.